All right, friends, welcome to our weekly Bible time. We call it Wednesday Bible study. People look at it any day, which is great. And we've been talking to people through the last couple of months about what in the Bible has been mattering to you and why. I don't know about you. I think it's been really interesting. I thought today it'd be fun to bring in my friend and colleague, Brian Childers. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You yeah, you're the wizard, not just on our staff, but kind of in the world when it comes to handbells and children and youth music. Yeah, you're amazing. How many bell pieces have you published?
Uh, 200 maybe.
Oh,
I stopped counting a while back.
people say to me, like, I published 20 books, and they think, wow. And I'm like, now Brian puts me in the shade. Like, two, that's amazing. And
Books
they're
are
really lovely. I've told you before, you made me like handbells when I did. Um, they make me a little nervous, be afraid I'd ring out at the wrong time. But you do such a great job with our groups. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And your friend, just so if people don't know, you're from
I was born in Hickory, but
Hickory,
I've lived in this area for 20 years now.
Mount Holly, and
Right.
you
Yeah.
went to school. You went to seminary out at Gardner Webb.
Huh.
Done a lot of good things. You're married to Keely, and yeah, so that's great. So Brian, tell us what in the Bible has been mattering to you lately, and why.
Well, as I was thinking about this, there were quite a few different passages that came up, some of them more pertinent, I guess, and connected with recent things that have gone on in our world. One of those, I think, is the passage from Revelation 3, where where we're told that those that are not hot or cold but are lukewarm are spat out of the mouth, which is not a pleasant image. But then again, the result of that is not pleasant either, and it just makes me wonder. Of course, with the shootings that happened recently, but even going back further than that, even with the all the changes that have happened in the midst of COVID, it makes me wonder, what does it mean to be lukewarm? What does God see in us as lukewarm? Makes me a little nervous sometimes if I am hot or cold or lukewarm. Answers that I don't have.
Yeah, I'd worry about the person, right, who says, I am hot for God, right? There's some humility in thinking, I'm, even if I'm really on it, I'm lukewarm compared to where I want to be, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. How would one go about um, warming up? That sounds like a dumb phrase, but
Well, that's a great question.
there are probably people that are thinking, huh, I'm a little lukewarm. I'm kind of interested in faith. I don't take it as seriously as I want. What do I do? What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, I think one of the things that's been on my mind a lot lately, and again, this does go back a lot to COVID and the sense of isolation that so many of us felt. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people continue to feel that, not just because of COVID, but because of how technology allows us to hole up in our own little space and not genuinely connect with other people. And I think it's that sense of community that's one of the important places for us to reignite or to heat up, or however you want to say it, because that sense of community is so important in the ways that we love God and love each other. It's hard to do that remotely. We can do that some remotely, but there's something about being in the same space that makes that easier.
Yeah, we get used to. I was reading something last night about kind of what everybody complains about. You have Facebook, and like, oh, I have friends. You're putting up puppy dog pictures or happy face family pictures, but you don't really converse there about things that matter, your life. God and so on. So how do we do that as a community? Nobody's going to be good at the Christianity thing solo. We need each other. I wonder if I hadn't even thought to ask you this, but it occurs to me as we're sitting here. When you're pulling a bell choir together, like there's got to be something like what a church ought to be, right? So you got somebody with the high pitched bells, or somebody with the big gong bell, and other bells in between. And it's not just one person playing the bells, right? They have to come together as a. Have you thought? I know you've thought about that.
I think about that at every single rehearsal for a variety of reasons. Musically, it's a unique ensemble because most people know what it's like or can sense what it's like to be in a choir, which is a wonderful experience. But if you have a choir with 10 tenors or 17 sopranos and you're missing one of those, it's not ideal, but the choir can still function okay that way. In handbells, if you have one person out, then all of a sudden you have bells that are not rung, and you have holes in the music that are not supposed to be there. And I think that's a good analogy maybe for the Christian life too, is that when we are not in community, there are holes in our lives. And it makes a big difference, not just to the person that's missing, but to all those that depend on that person musically, but also in real life too.
Yeah, and I feel the pressure, right? I'd have the F sharp bell and I would forget to ring it, and people would look at me, right? I feel that, but then there must be a delight when it all does come together. Sometimes I hear a little melody run and 5 different people ring a bell, but then you get it works, right? And if I knew we were going to talk about this, I would have looked up. I have a quote that I love by the Catholic theologian Hans Urs von Balthasar, where he kind of makes the same point about why we need to hear all the different voices in the body of Christ. So sometimes we only hear voices that are like ours, right? And we're missing so much wisdom about God, so much of a deeper understanding of God. It's only when we hear those voices that we don't expect to hear. It's a different voice. Same thing with bells. I mean, I love that. And I think that's probably right. Too often we only think about God with people that they're kind of like us. They kind of think the way we do. But, when you connect with people that are different, I know you did this ministry thing down at the border with helping the people down there begin bell ring. What did you find in that experience? That had to be cool.
It was. So that was the excuse for me going, which is always a great excuse. Anytime you put bells and me in the same spot, things turn out fun and exciting. And I'm looking forward to continuing that partnership. It was a really big growth opportunity for me because it really got me out of my comfort zone and working with the folks that were in I can't remember the name of the housing place that was there, but it was really eye-opening for me in a lot of ways. And I know that the handbell part of that is still ongoing, because part of the purpose in getting that started is to take those out into the colonias where they can be even more of a mission impact. And I'm looking forward to helping them with that. But I think for me, the big takeaway was there's a whole lot more at stake at the border than I realized. And there's a whole lot more humanity that needs to be recognized there.
Absolutely. And maybe, we could ask back to the on fire, lukewarm. We don't want our church to be lukewarm. Churches get lukewarm, but we don't want it to be. And maybe one of the ways we warm it up, if you will, is by doing that kind of thing, right? Instead of we're just going to do bells here. That's cool. Everybody loves it. We're going to take it on the road and go to people where it's going to matter. And then they're going to reach out and it's going to matter. And the whole church is getting hotter, if you will, because of that happening. Brian, thank you so much for this time and this conversation and for your great ministry among us.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
All right.
So, friends, also here on our weekly Bible reflection time, this is a real thrill to welcome my longtime friend and colleague, fellow pastor, Reverend Dr. Otto Harris. Otto, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's my thrill.
Oh, man, I've meant to get you on for some time and finally got it done. So glad you're here. You're the pastor over at St. Mark's here in Charlotte.
Absolutely. Yes.
How long have you been there?
I'm just finishing my 7th year.
Holy smoke.
Yeah, time flies.
And you're the pastor to the famous Hand family.
Oh, yes. Famous Hand family, phenomenal family.
It's like the first family of Methodism in our area.
Absolutely.
I saw them all at conference.
And their reach is expanding. So, yeah, our area is starting to go beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a common friend, Greg Palmer, who you had him preach a while back over there. That was,
absolutely, yes.
He about burned your church down. He was so
absolutely one of the highlights of my life. He's a phenomenal leader and preacher and all of that.
He appears at the back of my church, not since the pandemic, before that periodically, and I'd hear this booming bass voice. I go, "Oh, Greg's here today." He admires you and your preaching very much. So,
likewise, me for him and for you.
Where are you from originally?
Originally from Greensboro, born in St. Louis, but raised in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Yeah. And your family, you have.
So my wife, she's from Martinsville, Virginia, and we have 3 children. One 27, my namesake, and one 22. The young lady, she's in the middle, the Queen Junior, and then the youngest boy, he's 21.
I was with my middle child, who's a girl. She's a princess. She's a princess, not a queen. And so on Father's Day, and I said, "What's your favorite photo of the two of us together?" She said, "Every photo with you is my favorite."
Oh wow! Did she need something? That was.
Oh yeah, that came.
Right.
Oh, her name is Grace.
And Grace. Well, that was a very graceful response.
She's given it and required it. So, Otto, we've been asking interesting people. This has been great fun for our people. We've been asking interesting people, what in the Bible has been mattering to you lately, and why?
Yeah. Probably the standard that probably matters to most are the things that the texts that mattered most to Jesus when Jesus was asked the questions by a certain lawyer or by a lawyer. I think Matthew just says a lawyer, and Luke says a certain lawyer. What are the great commandments? And Jesus responds to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength. The second one is like it, to love your neighbors as yourself. And on these 2 commandments hang the prophets and the law. That's the way it shows up in the different verses. Those precepts that Jesus says are important are increasingly important, I guess, in our time, seemingly because they're so countercultural in the way that we're living in which we're talking by each other, and we're not living in the agape that Jesus is talking about here, in the way that I have the best interests of my neighbor in mind. And so these are important texts for me, for my congregation, and I think for the world. I think as we live these before the world, I think we'll be able to make a difference where we're contributing to the transformation of the world. Luke's version, when Jesus is responding, and Luke, of course, he's having the conversation, and he couched in the story about the Good Samaritan, and he says, the question and response is and who is my neighbor? So he's trying to define the neighbor. Really, the question that I hear underneath it is, and who is it that I have to love? But the response is that Jesus essentially says, whoever passes by, he had all these folks that passed by, and the one that passed by was the one who was unlikely to represent that love. And I think that we have opportunity as we pass by folks all day, every day, to find a way to contribute to making their life better. As we love the Lord our God with all our heart, our mind, our soul, our strength, and the second one like it is we love our neighbor as ourselves. So those are now, but I think are also linchpins to my life and my ministry, or at least aspirationally.
That neighbor thing is it's super interesting because people, even pious people that I know, they feel like they have almost a sacred right to judge other people, to be angry at other people, to shun. I'm unfriending. They're biased people, and somebody gets on their nerves, they don't agree with them, and they feel that's almost the holy thing to do. And Jesus would say that's the unholiest possible thing to do. How do we? You've been good at this. You've worked on a lot of community stuff and with the police and kids, a lot of things. How do we break down some of those barriers? If the neighbor isn't just the person that looks like me and thinks like me and lives in my neighborhood, but the neighbor is the other. How do we break down those barriers and actually love the person that at least superficially seems hard to love?
Yeah. That's intriguing, particularly in our world of social media, and particularly like a Facebook that we can unfriend someone so easily. And even the concept of friend is so cheapened by casual acquaintances, and we uncheck and check folks on and off at a whim. But it's about humility. It has to be a mutual humility. But even more so, I'm not responsible for my neighbor's humility. I'm responsible for my humility. So
I wish he'd be humble.
Right. I wish he'd be humble as I am. But this great humility that I have, I wish he takes But
Christ Episcopal Church a few years back asked me to come give it. They had a series on the virtues, and they asked me to come talk about humility. So I began by saying, "You could not have asked for a better person to." Too funny.
Yeah. So there's that, but then there's this intentionality to stick to it, to know that our membership vows in the United Methodist Church, we have a phrase in there that says that we're going to include these new persons in this community of love and forgiveness. So there's an expectation that we're going to offend each other. There's an expectation that we're not going to do right all the time. There's an expectation that I'm going to harm you and that you're going to harm me. And as we understand that we are in solidarity, that we're committed to this thing beyond this harm or beyond this offense, that at the end of the day, we're going to continue as a part of this community of love and forgiveness.
And it's beyond what some people talk about a kumbaya moment, right? But it's more than just like one quick hand slap.
Yeah.
One quick conversation. You stick with somebody over time. I think the sibling of humility is curiosity. Right? So instead of thinking, I do this in my marriage, right? I try to mind read. I know what Lisa's thinking. I'm mostly wrong, right? So what's with these?
We share that in common, yeah, right.
What are black people like? What are white people like? And we think we know these things, but let's be curious. People will tell you if you're a listener and you take the time and you decide over long. We're gonna be in a relationship over the long haul. What about the love God thing?
Yeah.
How do we love? It probably starts. I'm talking too much, but I thought about this the other day. Is how do you love God? Because people always say the idolatry of today is people's political ideology. Right? That's what they think is going to deliver the goods, but they don't love their political ideology. They wield their political ideology, right? It's like a weapon to win. So if we get to the true God, not a fake God, but the true God, how do we love God?
Yeah, I think your point about curiosity is the same thing. That we are on this journey of exploration towards God. That God is so good and so phenomenal and so much love that I can comprehend, and well beyond that. God is so fabulous as much as I can comprehend anything that's fabulous, and much beyond that. So my joy in love is the journey, the pursuit, the approach, doing all I can to get as close to God that I can discover. And part of that is going to be through neighbor, because I can only experience so much of God, and then it's going to take that time of loving God from my neighbor's perspective as well, so I can get a more comprehensive understanding and appreciation of this fabulous, of this wonderful God that I can see only so much of, but someone else can see so much more of, and we together have this embrace of this God that we can love with all our heart, our mind, our soul, and our strength.
It's never something that like, okay, I've got God figured out.
Right.
What's next? I'll learn about birds now.
Right.
It's beyond all that. And
Absolutely.
And to get out of, I talked to a guy the other day. It was heartbreaking. He said, "I don't talk to God anymore because God didn't do the stuff I asked him to do." Now there's a lot of pain, and
Sure.
But loving isn't just, asking for stuff. It's just being together. It's listening. It's that curiosity thing. It's trusting. It's so much more than just, okay, here are the 3 things I want. Please do these for me. Right.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. But the thing that I love about God is God is not forcing God's self upon me or upon us, but God is always available, and so we do the things that we know to do, the Bible studies, the prayer, the fasting, all of those things. But then I just think it's a part of paying attention, because God's going to show up. God's everywhere. But more times than not, either we're so busy or we're so fixated on something, or we're in the middle of a conversation where we're angry at each other, that we miss God in the whole conversation, or the whole interaction or engagement or environment, or whatever. If we just pause and say, well, where is God in this? That's one of the questions that Donald Jenkins used to always ask me as I was developing in my early years of ministry. He would always ask me, on my best days when I was just celebrating, everything was going great. Well, Otto, where's God in this? And then on those days when I just want to give up and say, maybe someone else can come and do this pastoring thing or do this teaching thing or whatever I was doing. And he, well, Otto, where is God in this? So it always brought me to a point to pause and to take a look around and to listen and to try and find and hear God's voice and see God's face in whatever situation or circumstance I'm in.
Probably the best word it occurs to me in all this is attentiveness, like to be attentive to God, attentive to the other. I love that. That's well said. Otto, thank you so much for this time and your wisdom and your friendship. We're grateful. We love the things we've been able to do with St. Mark's over the years and hope to do more coming up.
Absolutely. And I'm grateful for your friendship and for your teaching, as I've been watching you and a student of yours and taking me overseas and other places. And it's just been a joy.
Otto, you have a blessed day.
All right. You do as well. Thank you.